Okay, yeah, so thanks, Pete and Dominic. That was really great. And I'm now going to hand over to Martin and Tom from the University of Liverpool for their paper on investigating the link between open access repositories and citation impact.
Good morning. So can I just do a quick check that people can hear me and see the slides? Yep,
loud and clear,
excellent. Okay, so hi, my name is Martin. I head up the open research team at the University of Liverpool, and I'm joined by my colleague Tom today, who's our research publications metrics officer. And this is what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at, is there any link between open access repositories and citation impact? So this is an outline of the presentation. I'll talk about why we did this work and what prompted it. Then Tom will present the science bit where you need to concentrate, where we look at how we did the research and analysis, and we'll look at some of the findings. What did the data that we collected tell us? And then I'll finish off by talking about what we've done with those results and the impact that they've had and that they're likely to have going forward. So what prompted this work? It was largely down to the fact that in 2024, for the first time, the university had to put a pause on paying individual article processing charges for Liverpool researchers. Like many places, we have UKRI grants, we've got Wellcome grants. We also have an internal University of Liverpool fund used to pay for article processing charges. And in 2024, on two of those budgets, the internal and the UKRI, it was clear that at current rates of expenditure, we would have overspent those budgets. So we placed a pause on paying for gold open access processing charges. And so we took a paper to our research and impact committee where we were discussing what's led to the need for the pause. And like the effects of that pause. So things like the increase in demand for gold open access, and in particular, and I'm sure others have experienced the same thing, the increase in the costs of individual article processing charges have been going up and up. And obviously some of the effects were that we understandably had some disappointed academics. So we took this paper to Research and Impact Committee, and that led to some interesting questions about the value for money of gold open access. So very bluntly, are we getting our money's worth out of the investments that we put into gold open access? So this is actually useful. It's always useful to check our assumptions. Right? We're open access advocates, so we're always going around saying, if your work is open access, it will be cited more. Is that actually true? Is that true for Liverpool publications? So we wanted to explore these ideas, and that led to the creation of an outputs impact working group. That was chaired by a pro-vice chancellor for research. It had people from libraries on it, our strategic planning department, our research and partnerships department, our marketing department. And the context of all this is, Liverpool has a concerted push to rise in the QS World University rankings. So that's why we did this work. We needed to see, are we correct in saying that open access is associated with higher citations? And are we getting value for money from our gold open access? So I'm now going to hand over to Tom, who's going to talk about the way in which we went about investigating this.
Thanks, Matt. So first of all, because we were interested in citations, we were interested in kind of how this work affected University of Liverpool authors. We wanted to focus on corresponding papers from the University of Liverpool. So that presented our first challenge of how we define a not necessarily a definitive list, but a kind of a good enough list of corresponding papers from a particular period of time. So we first of all looked at Scopus and Scival, and unfortunately just before the period that we started this analysis, they'd kind of turned off the kind of export fields that used to collect information around corresponding authors. So we looked at Web of Science, where there were a couple of fields that were potential use that we could use in terms of the export to do a little bit of text manipulation to kind of identify where University of Liverpool email addresses were in the reprint email addresses, or where the affiliation data showed kind of only University of Liverpool authors. So we were able to kind of use that a little bit to identify a corresponding list of works. But we needed data from SciVal for the field-weighted citation impact values, so that we had a normalized metric that we could apply right across all our fields of research. We also needed OpenAlex data to find the locations of works that are in addition to the version of record. So OpenAlex has a kind of a vast data set of repository versions of records. Some of those will be the published versions in some cases, but a lot of them were also AAMs as well. Just as a note there, that the analysis was undertaken in October of last year, so we were using the version 1 of the OpenAlex source code before they moved to Walden around kind of start of November, December 2025. Next slide, please, Martin. So having the requirement of kind of combining the data between Web of Science, Scopus, and OpenAlex, we were aware that that wasn't necessarily going to give us a kind of full coverage in terms of the works that we were wanting to analyse. But we had done a previous piece of work around that overlap in terms of coverage between these indexing databases. So we had found, using a defined list of DOIs, that there was about 80% coverage of works across all three databases. So given the sizes of the data that we were looking at in the analysis, so we were looking at University of Liverpool corresponding works from 2021 to 2024 inclusive, and then expanding this across other N8 research partnership institutions. We knew that there was kind of between 5,000 and 10,000 works per institution for that kind of period of years. So we were satisfied that 80% coverage of QS contributing works was considered representative in terms of conducting this analysis. Next slide, please. So we combined the data from these sources. This allowed us to create 6 distributions of field-weighted citation impact values, which corresponded to the publishing routes of closed access, of hybrid OA and gold OA, each with and without a corresponding green repository version using the OpenAlex data. So we plugged this into some kind of built-in statistical analysis tools in Python to produce a Kruskal-Wallis analysis with paired Mann-Whitney U tests, including Bonferroni correction, and this allowed us to create a kind of pseudo rank in terms of expected citation impact for each of those categories. Next slide, please. So these are the results and findings for the University of Liverpool, so corresponding works from 2021 to 2024. We've got a graph here on the left showing the median field-weighted citation impact and the statistical rank in brackets above. And on the right, we've got the table of the statistical analysis. So I'd just like to draw your attention to the kind of the rows of data highlighted in yellow or gold, showing that any paired matching of a publication category with and without green shows a statistically significant result in favour of a higher median field-weighted citation impact in terms of the version with green. So the rows highlighted in blue show the results that didn't have statistical significance. So that means that our rankings don't necessarily, from a statistically significant point of view, run from 1 to 6. We've got kind of joint top in terms of hybrid and green and closed and green, joint third in terms of gold and green and hybrid without any green involvement, and then joint fifth in terms of gold and closed without green. So you can clearly see that there's a trend towards the addition of green with a higher average field-weighted citation impact. So next slide, please, Martin. We then expanded these results across the Northern 8 research partnership. So we combined we did the results individually, but then we combined that data set and ran those numbers to do the statistical analysis. And again, we produced the results showing that any paired matching of green versus not green has kind of a clear statistical significant advantage in terms of papers that did have a green repository version. And again, we can see that we no longer have the kind of blue square around the row between hybrid green and closed and green. So hybrid is kind of, in terms of statistical significance, the highest rated kind of method of publishing to produce a field weighted citation impact. And again, we can see down the bottom that we've got gold and closed quite close to each other in joint fifth. Next slide, please, Mark.
Oops. Yeah. So some of those results I was really surprised by, but also some of those results I was very encouraged by. So we took those results and initially we fed them back to that outputs impact group. And what was really useful about this work is that it did check our assumptions. And one of the key findings of this is that gold open access, paid for article processing charge, gold open access is not as impactful as we would like from a citation impact point of view. And this can be helpful in certain ways. So it could help, for instance, if an institution is interested in introducing a limit, a cap on how much it will pay for an individual article processing charge, for instance. But the most valuable and the really most actionable result that came out of this is that quite clearly there is value in green open access, even if the version of record itself is openly accessible. And there was some limited evidence to suggest that the more repositories something is in, the more pronounced that correlation with higher citation impact is. So I thought this is really positive. This shows that our institutional repositories can help our universities achieve their objectives. So we drafted a paper for the university's senior leadership team, and that one sentence covers Lord knows how many different drafts and how much editing and rewriting that we were doing of this paper. So it went through multiple rounds of revisions. It went through umpteen different other groups and committees before we actually presented that paper to senior leadership team. And it's, as I say there, it's going to lead to a much more prescriptive set of recommendations. So we are going to be implementing an open access engagement project whereby we will be really going out and making the case for repository open access, for green open access. Because going back to the previous presentation and the stuff about incentives and make it rewarding, why would somebody want to put something into a repository? Why would they want to encourage their co-authors at other institutions to put papers in their repositories? Because you'll get cited more. And we've got that kind of clear link. And what we haven't presented here today is that not only did we, and by we, I mean Tom, do the analysis for the all 8 of the N8 institutions, we also looked at another group of universities in the UK, which are the universities that Liverpool benchmarks itself against, and we were getting the exact same trends. We've also got this confluence of events. So during the preparation of that paper, UKRI made their announcement about ceasing funds for read and publish agreements. Now, I know UKRI themselves will say, we're not ceasing funding for read and publish agreements, we're ceasing funding for the hybrid part of those agreements, showing that I think UKRI probably aren't aware that nearly all read and publish agreements, they're just hybrid agreements. But it's quite clear that UKRI are kind of giving more of a push, I think, to institutional repositories. The UKRI will be investing into digital infrastructure. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they're going to be looking to invest in repository infrastructure. And this is the right report at the right time, because it shows there is clear value in having materials in repositories, regardless of whether the version of record is openly available or not. And it certainly shows the big increase in citation impact when you pair green open access with something that's paywalled in the journal of record. So that's our presentation. Thank you for listening, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you both. That was great.
Okay, so to Nick, everyone asks us that. Every time we talk about this, have we written it up for publication? No. No, we have not. We're considering writing a case study, rather than an academic peer-reviewed kind of journal article kind of thing. But we'll be considering writing it up for a case study.